Hi, I'm Seraphine Lillian. I'm an ergonomist, and I'm going to talk to you today about mice. So I don't know if you know this, but mice come in a different variety of shapes and sizes, as you can see from some of the samples that I have here. There's some vertical mice, there's some mice that have a slight angle, and then there's this guy over here. This guy is your standard mouse. And this is a standard size mouse. It's not a travel mouse. So travel mice would even be smaller. And I bet you a lot of you are using travel mice that might be, maybe, this is about 4 inches long, that might be 3 inches long. So a lot of times what I see when people are mousing is they have their hand kind of like this, where the palm is on the surface and just their fingertips are on the edge of the mouse. And then what they wind up doing is they're in a fixed position, meaning the wrist stays where it is, and all they do all day long is they go back and forth like this. They click the buttons, they scroll, and they don't move their hand at all. And so the problem with that is, number one, you are resting right on this area of the wrist here where there's nerves and veins. This is where the carpal tunnel is, so you really don't want to be resting all day long on that carpal tunnel. And then plus you're resting on it, and then you're adding movement. So the tendons, the 8 tendons that go through that tunnel, have less space to navigate through when you're compressing it and moving. So what I call wagging, like dogs wag their tails. I always say no wagging allowed, okay? No wagging. You can't wag your hand. Instead, what you're going to do is change your hand position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change from the weight being here on my wrist to my weight being here on the back of my hand, on the back of these 2 knuckles. So the back of these 2 knuckles, you want to marry them to the high point of the mouse right here. So you're going to go right there, marry them, okay? Then you relax your fingers, and now you're going to move the mouse from the shoulder instead of the wrist, okay? So this position, right, where I'm moving from my shoulder, looks really similar to this position, moving from my wrist, okay? Did you see, all I did is I moved my hand like what? I don't know, 1/8 of an inch higher on the mouse so that my weight is here, and this is going to be my driver instead of the wrist being the driver, okay? So you're going to switch the weight from the wrist to the back of the knuckles like that, and then you're going to move it from the shoulder. So that's the way you would use any kind of standard shaped mouse that's kind of flat on the top, like that. Now sometimes people get problems in their forearm muscles here from doing a lot of mousing, like designers or a lot of CAD operators. They just use the mouse a lot during the day, and so they wind up having some problems with their tendons maybe in their forearm. And sometimes just the position that your hand is in causes the problem. So that's why some of these funky shaped mice come in handy. So this is just one that I just took. This one is angled at 66 degrees. So when my hand is on it, my forearm posture looks more like this as opposed to flat on a standard mouse. And so number one, when I do this, I am no longer resting on the carpal tunnel. I'm resting just on the side of my hand here, the pinky side of my hand. And then it's going to force me to move the mouse from my shoulder. So this mouse, just by the shape and the design of it, is going to help me to use my hand, arm, and shoulder in a more neutral position than the standard style mouse. So that is one advantage of using a mouse like this. And sometimes I recommend this for people, again, that have problems in the tendons here, because you're what's called pronating your hand, your forearm. So the muscles, the bone is actually crossed over, the ulnar and the radius bone is actually crossed over. So when your hand is in a more handshake type position, it's in a more neutral position. So that's sometimes why these mice help people that have problems in this part of their body. And that's a little bit about mousing. Thank you.